Get it, get it.
Woo, I needed some dancing today.
Yes.
How
Yeah,
are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm better after that little dance. I'm better.
Right?
It's interesting. I know you've been talking about interplay for a while, and those of you who don't know Christine, she's an interplay leader, right? And what I think about with interplay is movement and kind of like therapy. It makes you feel better. And even though I haven't been to interplay yet, I have been doing it every day. It makes you feel better. It
Woo,
does.
woo. I love that. Well, we should introduce ourselves and then let's talk about that a little bit more because
Yeah,
our topic today is physical wellness. So
it
I
is.
would love to talk about that a little more.
Okay, well, ladies, welcome to our show. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of Shealoglo LLC, a handmade shea butter company. I am an advocate for your intentional self care and business care.
Hey, y'all, I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, and published author who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Yes, and together we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast grounded in the 8 dimensions of wellness.
Right. And we like to get together every week to have intentional conversations about how to be wise in business and relationships and wellness. And today we're talking about physical wellness.
Yes, yes. And since we already started talking about the topic, I'm gonna give us the definition so we can jump back to where we
I
started.
love it. I
So,
love it.
physical wellness is the ability to maintain a quality of life that allows you to get the most out of your daily activities without undue fatigue or physical stress. Physical wellness recognizes that our daily habits and behaviors have an impact on our overall health, well being, and quality of life.
Right.
Yeah,
So, top of the show, we were talking about moving and
yeah,
dancing, and
yeah.
yes, about being a certified interplay leader. We use movement and storytelling and voice. And it's
Mm,
funny that you should bring that up, Shannon, because I did a focus session just this week, which is like a 30-minute counseling session using interplay tools and
mm,
techniques, right?
yeah,
And so we don't start with the talk, we start with the movement. And I was working with a client and who's in my life practice program and we started with moving to a song, right? And it was 2 minutes of movement and like how much that can shift us when we just take that time to move and relax and be joyful. And I use it all the time as a personal tool.
yeah.
That if I need energy, if I'm funky and need to
Mm,
shift my mood,
hmm.
I just put on a really good song and go for it.
Yeah,
So,
I like that. I told you my song recently was Don't You Worry About a Thing by Stevie Wonder. And it's
right?
interesting because I catch myself even while the song is on, starting to worry about something. It's like you can't even last 5 minutes, but it's funny. And moving to that song definitely helps.
Right. Well, I come from a family of warriors. So
Yeah,
I know that like sometimes that's ingrained in us, right? And
yeah.
to be intentional about like, you know, worry doesn't help, but action often does. Like when we talk about women in action.
Mm,
So,
I
what
like that.
can we do to take action if something's really bugging us? Or what's the underlying concern? Yeah,
Hmm.
it's um, it's a big deal, especially with all the energy and what's going on in the world right now. There's a lot of things to be concerned about. You
Right.
know,
Yeah,
there's a lot of things to be concerned about.
yeah. And before the call, we were talking about pivoting, right? And when I think about pivoting, I was telling you, I think about bands. So if you guys don't know me, again, I'm the coolest band nerd ever. Okay. Love marching band. I love symphonic too, but I love physically marching on the football field. And pivoting was an action where you would be, let's say we're going straight, and you would turn your ankle, okay, and then you go in a different direction. And now a lot of times we talk about it in situations. Oh, we got to pivot. We got to pivot. And that is very important to stay flexible in the moment. And you planned something, you thought you were going this way, but a detail, a hair got tossed into the plan that changes the situation, and you got to act quickly and adapt and go another direction so you reach your goal, and not fall apart. Sometimes that's the goal, to not fall apart and to keep going for that next step.
Right? It is so true. It's like the only constant is change.
Hmm.
So how do we adapt to change, both with physical wellness and all the 8 dimensions of wellness?
Yeah.
How do we, and I like what you said ahead of time, like we plan and then we pivot. Like, yeah, because anybody that's listens to our shows know how big of a planner Shannon is. Like it's, and we had some of that today, that we had to pivot with each other. And it's like, it can be challenging and it can be frustrating. And to have some freedom within the forms, we always say that in an interplay, like the forms give you structure to have freedom within it. And planners too, like we plan, and then where's the freedom within our planning when things happen, right? As all of us know after this last year.
Yes.
What the heck?
And that's what I think about physical wellness, right? So let's talk about my specific position again. As a young woman, before I have kids, I'm thinking about muscle memory, right? I'm running, doing abs, thinking about muscle memory so that when I get pregnant, hopefully one day, my body will be healthy and have that muscle memory to um, return back to what I want it to look like. And we'll see what that looks like. I know there's expectations on this side of the situation and then reality on the other one, right? Um, but that's what I think about when I think about physical wellness, is being proactive instead of reactive. And again, sometimes life makes you sit down. Quarantine has been different. I know I've been following people on my business page on Instagram, and I like to follow active people, because they care about their bodies, and that's what Shealoglo people do. They care about their bodies and taking care of themselves. And I call them glow babies, right? And it's changed. So your physical activity may have changed based on quarantine and what was open, but how do you pivot and still do what you like to do in quarantine? Now just kind of adjust it. Maybe it's at home instead of the gym. Or how do you keep the same level of activity, but now it's a different activity? Now maybe you ride a bike, excuse me, instead of doing aerial aerobics with what is that they use in aerial aerobics? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about like where they climb the ropes and
Yeah,
they
it's like rings and ribbons and
Yeah, I have a good friend that does that, and I have another colleague, Sarah, who is an interplay leader, who is a circus trainer too, who does that.
Ooh.
Like she has a social circus. We should get her to come on and talk to us, because she's been doing that phenomenal work. Yeah, we should definitely get her to come on and talk to us.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm also thinking about, because I'm not as young as you are, and
That's okay.
I think about accessibility issues. I've been an athlete my entire life, but like I was doing triathlons for a while and planning on getting back to them, but I had a major wreck and I just tore up my wrist. So for about a year, I couldn't ride my racing bike or do my yoga. That was the keystone of my start to my day, right? Because I had an injury. And there's so many people I know and love that have accessibility issues. So, and especially as they age, sometimes that part of their body doesn't work that same way. So how do we make adjustments? This weekend, I was at the virtual Roots weekend. It was a weekend of artists and activists coming together. And I was trying to look because I wanted to call her name properly. I took a class on Sunday. Yes, here it is. It was the Get Embodied Soul Movement class with Ifasina Clear. And I want to invite her to come on and be a guest on our podcast too, because it was all about movement from the Black soul tradition for all bodies, and especially bodies that had accessibility issues. And it was the tradition of African dance. And I thought it was going to be like a workshop, but it was a dance workshop. And I have been to another African dance class from my friend Marquetta Dupree, who's an incredible Zumba and African dance teacher, but she tried to kill me because that class was so fast. And, you know, when you come from an athletics background, your first instinct is to do it. Right? Like you do it, you keep up. And I was sore for a week after that class. But Ifasina's class was definitely, it was a good class. Like it kind of snuck up on you. It was about an hour and a half, but you could do it from the chair, or you could do it from standing, and she gave us rest breaks. But I was still that good kind of sore you have a day or two afterwards. I was like, ooh, I did something there. That was some good dancing.
And that's a pretty long class, an hour and a half. I remember when I used to work at the gym when I went to Kennesaw State, we had Zumba, and I took a class one day after I worked. I said, "Are we gonna dance the whole hour?" Like, I know I'm a college kid, we go to parties, but you know, you kind of dance and chill. You don't dance the whole hour. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. And I love that it was accessible. Like you said, accessibility is a thing. It's a huge thing. And we talk about privilege as an able-bodied person. That's definitely a privilege that I have, and something that I don't have to usually consider on a daily basis unless I'm intentionally thinking outside of what I need to think about on a daily basis.
Well, thinking about accessibility too, Shannon, we haven't done this on our podcast because we go live. But one of the things we were practicing on at the Alternate Roots weekend was visual descriptors for listeners who are not seeing you. And I think it would actually be a cool thing to do for our audio listeners too. So folks that,
what does that look like?
So it's like this. You know, hey y'all, my name's Christine Gautreaux. I use she, her pronouns. I am coming to you today from the land of the Muskogee Creek. I'm about a mile east of the Chattahoochee River in a place now called Duluth, Georgia. I am a middle-aged white woman with light skin. I have long, over a little longer than my shoulders, auburn length hair. I'm wearing glasses that have a dark purple rim on them. I am wearing a blue top today that has some crisscross straps. And behind me is just kind of like a blank wall, which usually you can see my bookshelf behind me. But for some reason today you cannot.
Right.
Yeah. And I'll pass it to you, Shannon.
Oh, okay. So let's see. How did you describe it? I'm not going to do the geography. Okay. And I said it earlier, but I'll do it again. I am a Black female. How do you describe yourself? With two puffs. They're called lock petals. Okay, guys.
Lock petals. Thank you.
It's like flowers. Yeah, thank you. With a jean jacket and a Fashion Nova dress that looks like the sun.
I like it. And white earbud pods coming out of her ears today.
Yes. I need to work on that. And thank you. I was thinking about that. Thinking about I feel like this is something I realized when I started taking better care of myself, is the lack of vocabulary that I had to describe myself or how I was feeling or where I was coming from. It's like I have all these words for everybody else, but what about for me? And while you were describing it, I said, "Ooh, I bet people would have difficulty doing it." And then you picked me and said, "Oh no, I am people. I have difficulty doing this."
Well, it's a practice, right?
Yeah,
it's like anything new to us. That's one of the things that I love about that community, the Alternate Roots community, is we get to show up and practice things, right? Yeah. Because it's a culture and it's a culture shift, right? When you said having the privilege of being able-bodied, that is a privilege. But I will tell you from my friend Myrna, who we need to have on too, she is she's the founder of, okay, I'm gonna get her organization wrong because they changed names. It's now called Showability. Okay. And so she works with performers who have different abilities. And some of the statistics she and I have talked about before is, I want to have her on because I don't want to screw it up. But basically, it is the largest group of people as far as folks with disabilities
Mhm.
that is constantly growing. And every human being has maybe in that category at one point or another in their lives.
Right, right.
And so it's something not to take for granted. So when you said
Mm-mm.
that, that's what triggered it for me. And I thought, podcasters, we may have folks that don't
Mhm.
watch us live online that want to know what we
Absolutely.
look like. And then,
Mhm.
you know, and we just have to practice it. So
Yeah, I would love
probably
to.
should have said, I probably should have said I'm a fluffy middle-aged woman.
No,
So
because you've lost all that weight. You used to no. Nope, I don't like that one.
you don't like that one.
No, we're about to get you back to these triathlons and everything.
Oh, I am. Can I tell you, last Friday, I did 13 miles on my bike.
Good
I
job.
was so delighted. Cycling is one of my favorite sports.
Hmm.
And so, of course, on that day when I, pedaled out 13 miles, I'm like, woohoo, I'm putting a century on my calendar right now. Of course, I didn't put it then right on that day. I should have called my
Hmm.
friend Shannon, who likes to calendar things.
Yes.
Because the next day when I woke up and my hips were hurting as bad as I'm like, am
Hmm.
I really doing a century? Am I doing a century this year or not? I don't know. We'll see. But
Hmm.
it is a goal that I'm debating. Is I'm going to look at some races and see what's within reach there, because
Okay.
I've been wanting to do 100-miler for a while. So
Well,
what
you know
about
I'm for it.
what have you been working on that you want to go towards?
So I've actually been working on stretching more. I was reading, and this is genuinely um, not just because it's your book, but it is the book that I'm reading right now, right?
I love it.
Um, but I was reading Stillpoint, and it was talking about physical wellness, physical self care, and how flexibility is part of that.
Mhm,
So I run, that's great. Even as an athlete, I want to make sure that I'm stretching when I should.
mhm.
And I do that when I work out, but I think I need to add it a little bit more. So I've been doing it like in the morning and at night is part of my goal. And I know on season one, my manifestation, no, my wisdom and action was that even if I don't run that day, then I'll go outside and walk. And that's been something that I've continued to do. So those two things.
I love that. Well, the
Hmm.
other thing, before we bring on our guest, that I wanna mention,
Yeah.
because every Tuesday I teach a class with my co-author, Sheila K. Collins, and we do an interplay class for caregivers. And at the end of the class, one of our practices is we ask, what's one thing that you're going to do that you commit to doing for your self-care this
Hmm.
week, and what's one thing you commit to doing to your community care? And for the first time in over a year, and y'all are going to call me to task on this one, but the first time in over a year, what I said for self care is I'm going to rest when I need to rest this week. So I just want to name that as we call that into the room, as we talk about physical wellness, that resting piece being so crucial.
Hmm.
Um, because I have been hitting my walking goals, my cycling goals, my stretching goals, but I have not been hitting my resting goals, which is
Hmm.
such a huge thing, which our next guest is probably going to fuss at me a little bit about that. But I am looking forward to the conversation. Should we bring our guest on?
Yes, let's go ahead and start.
All right. So I am going to read their official bio because I don't want to screw it up. And Sacil Armstrong is our guest today. And I am so excited to introduce y'all to her. Sacil is a self care and social justice facilitator, integrating self care with equity and anti racism training. Her teaching motto is no blame, no shame, no guilt, because those emotions get in the way of learning. She focuses on evidence based techniques and ideas that not only make us feel good, but also increase our mental and emotional capacity to handle the new normal. Whew, Shannon, you and I were
Hmm.
just talking about that. She
Yeah.
loves music, art, and laughter, and often dances her way into trainings to set the mood. Even though change can be hard, she believes we have a reason to celebrate. Showing up to learn is a step towards making a positive change. Oh my gosh. Cecile, I wish I had the music queued back up to put some music. to dance together. But I am so glad you're joining us today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. Okay, I did pull up the music. Hang on just a second, y'all, because that dancing,
okay,
just like we dance in. Hang on, we're going to take just 10 seconds and dance.
Okay.
If you're listening to us in your car, just dance along with us for 10 seconds.
I see you, Sacil. Hey.
Hey.
That's great.
Yes.
And I'm gonna tell you, you were right when you said you haven't been resting, and I was gonna call you out on it. I'm glad you claimed it, but I'm gonna call you out.
Right?
Yes.
Woo! And you know, I know my indicator when I'm not resting. Mm-hmm. And one of my indicators that Shannon can call me out on today too is like I overschedule. Like I get, my brain doesn't, like I if I'm not resting enough, what happens is then I'm not realizing how much time I need in between. And I'm like, oh, it's this crazy cycle, and I double triple schedule, or I'm like, what is happening? And it's my indicator to go, oh, you are not well rested, because normally that's not a norm, right?
Right.
So,
that's a good point. And I do the same thing. I wonder, we should talk about that. Indicators for when you start kind of getting off a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, knowing your indicators is huge. It's a huge way of stopping the cycle. Yes. You have to be aware of your own symptoms, your own patterns. Yeah. Because if you don't know your patterns, you're going to keep repeating that same stuff over and over again.
Right.
But when you recognize your patterns, you can stop it before the cycle gets started.
Right. And patterns is exactly what I think about, Sacil, when Christine was reading your bio, talking about the blame, shame, guilt. Those are like go-to, the self-sabotage habits, right? So instead of trying to learn, you want to push it off on somebody else, or that's what we tend to do, right? So how do you balance those things between not doing that? What do you help people do instead?
Okay, well, when I'm doing my workshops, the first thing I do is talk to people about recognizing their own emotions, because a lot of times people don't even recognize what they feel, so they don't even see what they do. And so the first thing I do before I even start talking about either anti-racism or equity or self-care, any of that stuff, the first thing I do is have people get in touch with what they're feeling. I'm like, we're going to dance a minute so we can bring the energy up, and then we're going to sit and breathe so that we can get in touch with what we feel. And so after we do some breathing and get in touch with what we feel, then I talk to people about taking responsibility for their own emotions. It's like, okay, recognize what you feel, and then recognize nobody else has any power over that except for you. You know, as the facilitator or the person that's leading the workshop, I might say things that make you feel bad, that make you angry, that make you feel guilty, but I'm not putting those emotions on you. You know, I might be triggering those emotions in you, but I can't control how you feel. And so it's not my responsibility to make you feel better. It's your responsibility to recognize where those feelings are coming from, sit with them so they can pass, and then come back to concentrate on whatever it is that we're talking about. And it's okay to interrupt class and say, I need a minute, or that's triggering for me. Can we work out why, or any of that kind of stuff, as long as you're taking responsibility for what you feel. And that's what I do in the beginning, so that everybody is on like the same level with, you know, all right, we're all going to be dealing with things that are triggering, and we're all going to feel some stuff, and I got to deal with my own shit. Sorry. I got to deal with my own stuff.
You're fine.
Okay. All right. Really though. Yes. So how would you advise somebody to balance their physical wellness with that? When you think about physical wellness and what you do, what is it that stands out? Is it both the action and then the breathing together? What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely the action and the breathing together. And I will admit I am not like super active. I'm not athletic like y'all are, but I am all about my wellness. I do walk in the morning. I walk just about every morning barefoot on the grass. That's my morning ritual to get myself grounded before I start my day. And it might not sound like it's all athletic, but that is purely physical experience, you know. for me to
Absolutely.
get my body settled, to get my mind straight before I start my day.
Yeah.
I'm also most of the time pretty careful about what I eat. And so it's not just making sure that you eat live food and that you eat, you know, a lot of vegetables and less meat and all that kind of stuff. It's also about things like making my own tea. I will go out to the grocery store just about every week and I get like a bunch of different herbs that I know what they do and toss them in a pot and brew my own tea. And sometimes I'm throwing in things like sweet potato or beets, things that are, you know, superfoods. Throw all of these things into a pot and then sweeten it up with some honey and some apple cider vinegar, and you've got your own tea. And it's something that's fresh, it's homemade, it's got all these good properties in it if you know what the herbs are for. And you know, you've got your own, and pray over it. And then you've got your own like super tea for yourself, you know, personalized to you.
Cecile, would you be willing to write down that recipe for us that we could share with our listeners? And of course, we're like, Shane and I are like,
yeah. What'd you say? You said agave, no honey. Got it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I love that, and I love being barefoot too. So barefoot on the grass, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a grounding thing. That's one of the things I tell my clients when somebody's really scattered or chaotic or can't like catch their breath. It's like, when's the last time you put your feet on the earth? And if you're really struggling, go lay down on the earth. Like,
yes.
You know, ooh, I love that we have that in common, Cecile. Because
well, you know,
go ahead.
I was in that embodiment class with you on Sunday, and while I was outside dancing, and I was barefoot while we were doing it.
I didn't know if you were in the green room when Shannon and I were talking about it, because I was talking about the class where Marquetta almost killed me, but this one was not. Like, this one was accessible and it was good. I was still sore. I don't know about you, but the next day or two I was like, what's that? And I'm like, oh, that was those arms we did.
Yeah. I was sore afterwards too, but I absolutely love that class. I used to dance all the time and I've gotten away from it, and that class just like brought me right back to it. So yeah, I absolutely love that. I will
put the link to that in our show notes for our listeners, because she was an incredible teacher. And and that class is I think she said they said, sorry, I'm misgendering them. I think they said on the 2nd and 4th Saturday of the month, but I'll put a link to it.
Yeah, it was twice a month.
Yeah.
I know she's got a Facebook group and Instagram where she goes live. I already signed up because I was like, yes, I'm definitely doing this again.
All right, we'll tag that in the show notes for folks that are interested. That was a soul embodied class, an embodied dance class. Shannon, you'll have to join us.
Yeah. And it's usually on Sunday?
Saturdays.
Okay.
Saturdays, yeah.
Okay.
So, that was incredible. I've had a great time. So what else, Cecile, when you think about physical wellness, things that when you tied to your work, because, you know, racism is in bodies. It's in bodies.
And I actually have an even more like specific question for what Christine is saying. So I know we have a giveaway, right? So you are giving our listeners 10% off for your upcoming course, right? On how to talk to your racist friends and family. So I love that. For that person that's talking to their racist friends and family, what would you say to them about the tension? What do you do with that physically if they're thinking about their physical wellness after that conversation?
Or during that or before?
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I would want them to think about their wellness, physical wellness, before they have that conversation, because the first thing about having that conversation with somebody is knowing what you're feeling. Because if you go into that conversation going, oh my God, this person is stupid and I can't stand the way they think and I have got to change them. If you go in there with that attitude, even if you don't say it, your conversation is already off to a bad start, because that person's going to feel it. And so the first thing that I go over in this class is getting in touch with what you're thinking and feeling about the person that you're trying to reach, and then coming to a place where you can allow them to be where they are and you can just meet them there. and then you can talk to them and bring them along. But before you can do any of that, you have to get in touch with what you feel, recognize what you're feeling and thinking, and get yourself grounded to a place where you're like, I'm okay. I know what I want to share. I can't force them to do anything. All I can do is share this information with them, because that's how I teach. When I teach my anti-racism classes, I do a whole meditation before I ever enter the classroom, because I know that people are there because they want to be, and I can't change their mind about anything. All I can do is hold space for them and then share the facts. And if I can hold space so that they can get over their defensiveness and they can say, okay, she's not attacking me for being who I am, so I don't have to be afraid. So that means I can listen. And then all that stuff gets out of the way and I can share the facts. And I'm trying to think. I can't think of one class where I've ever had where somebody has said, I don't believe anything you say and I'm not going to change my mind. Every class I've ever done, when I do the no blame, no shame, no guilt, and I get everybody grounded, people usually cry first thing. There's always someone in class that cries and says, thank you, because I was scared to be here. And then once everybody's settled and I start sharing facts and saying, this is our history, this is where these things come from, the way our society is now, did not just pop up out of thin air, did not just pop up because this is how people are. This was designed. Racism was legislated into our country. And once people learn that, and then they're like, oh, I didn't know. What do I do now? And then I'm like, here you go. Here's a whole bunch of resources. Let me show you what it takes to be anti-racist, in your daily life. You don't have to go out and, march and say, I'm this like heavy duty activist. You can say, I'm going to be anti-racist in my life. And this is how you do it. And that's what gets people.
I love that though. And it reminds me, especially with a psychology degree, right? Why I think people are crying and so emotional is because they probably thought they felt those things for somebody else, but they realized it was for them. Like they felt the blame and the shame and the guilt.
Right.
When you put that down, you feel so much lighter.
Yes. You really do. But it's also a constant thing. You can't just say, okay, I'm in this class, I put it down and now it's gone, because you've dealt with it your whole life. And so as soon as you walk away from that class where somebody has you focusing on that, you're going to pick it right back up without even thinking.
Yeah.
And so it's something that people have to work on, and they have to sit with and practice that every day. Because like I said, when I do my classes, I have a whole ritual that I go through beforehand so that I can hold space for people. Because if I walk into that class without it, somebody's going to say something racist that's going to piss me off. So I know I have to get into my space so that I can help other people get there too.
I love that.
Well, and I was also thinking when you talked about that too, Sacil, if we're doing our work as white people and we're doing our work as folks who want to be allies or co-conspirators to end racism, we're going to step in it and make mistakes.
Right.
And so what may happen is shame, blame, or guilt bubbles up again. Like, we didn't do something the right way, or and so having those tools to be able to set it down, to be able to stay in the work, and take care of ourselves and have sustainability as activists, caregivers, like people just trying to make a difference in the world. I think it's important, because I think that is part of the physicality of it, is if our body really feels good, we don't want to do it.
Right. That's true. But activism, if you're doing anti-racism, any of that stuff, it isn't different than learning anything else. When you start learning, you're going to screw up. And if you let the possibility of screwing up stop you from taking action, you'll never do anything. Because that's how we learn. We learn by doing and messing up and then doing it better and then messing up and then doing it better and then messing up. And that's just the process. And so, and that applies to anything that you learn. And so when people can get that in their mind, okay, I'm going to mess up. And I saw you commented on one of my blog posts about allyship. You commented on the part where I said the key is when you mess up, you can't like cry and say I didn't mean it and all this other stuff. You got to say I'm sorry. What can I do to make up for this, and then do better going forward. And you have to keep doing that over and over and over.
Well, and I just want to speak to my white colleagues and friends and people out there, because I've been in way too many spaces where when a white person messes up, they make it all about them and they start crying and they center themselves. And when you're doing anti-racism work, That's no, it's not about you. So I loved your blog in your article where you very succinctly said, like, say, I'm sorry. What can I do differently? And then take the feels, because it's kind of like what you said at the beginning of the podcast. Like, it's okay to have those feelings, but you deal with it. And we're not expecting our friends of color or our teachers of color to fix it for us or to have to process those feelings with us. That's for us to take care of. And so I think it's huge, because I know you've been in those spaces, but I've been in those spaces too. And it's like, don't do that.
So. Yeah, I know. It's like, it feels bad, and you feel bad in your body, you feel bad in your heart and your mind, and it's your responsibility to sit with that, because those are your feelings that you're putting on yourself. So it's your responsibility to sit with that, breathe, let them pass through so you can let them go, and then get up and keep doing the work.
Right. And that's the important piece. Get up and keep doing the work, especially as white people. We have the privilege to set it down or not. And that's not a good friend, a good ally, a good human being. So we got to pick it up and keep going. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And I really like what you said, Sacil. I think I'm going to do that from now on. When I'm teaching classes, if I'm about to speak, I'm going to give some time. Just like you said, Christine, I'll overbook myself, right? So if I have something where I need to speak, then I know I need that time for myself to make sure I'm good before and after. I think that's wise. That's why we're here.
Right. Well,
well, I know.
Right? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, when I don't do it, things don't go as smoothly, because I have time that I have set aside before to get prepared, and then I have time afterwards, especially with teaching anti-racism, because when I do it, my whole self is there. I am completely present with everybody, giving people what they need, holding space. And holding space is hard sometimes, especially with people who don't know, because in those 2-hour sessions that I do, I hear so much racist stuff, and I'm just holding space because I'm like, this is where they are, but I teach. And then afterwards, I've got to have my time so that I can decompress, because I held space and took on all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm not going to take that with me through the rest of my evening. And so usually once I've done something, I'm not doing anything major the rest of the day, because I'm giving myself time to let it all go. And that's spiritual work, but it's also physical work, because I'm exhausted.
Right. Right. Do you have any physical practices or anything that you do, Sacil, after to let things go?
Most of the time what I do is more of a spiritual thing, but I do a lot of breathing, and then a lot of times I just want to take a shower. I mean, that's a physical thing, but
it's a physical thing. And I'm glad you brought that up. I do that often. It's like a natural way to cleanse all that energy off of you, and to really when you're conscious about it and you make the intention, I'm going to let this go down the drain. Right.
Right. It's like a shower meditation.
Right. I think that's so powerful.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, that's going to be one of my blog posts next week. I'm actually writing a shower meditation that people can use. So when you get in the shower, it's not just the physical acts of washing off, but it's merging the spiritual with it.
Right? Oh, I can't wait to see that. I know we have a little more talking. Since we're talking about the blog, Sacil, where can folks find your blog? Because we've mentioned it a couple of times. Where can they find it?
I'm on Patreon. So it's patreon.com/TheRealSacil.
Okay, I'm going to put that up. The Real Sacil. I love that. So folks can go and follow you. And,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll put that in our show notes too, so people can find you and follow you.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Well, they'll find what I'm talking about right here. It's all about equity, anti-racism, and self-care.
Right? And I want to give a shout out to Paul Zelizer over at Awarepreneurs, because that is you. Paul tagged me. I'm part of his Awarepreneurs community, and he tagged me and said, you need to connect with Sacil Armstrong. You and he are like, y'all need to connect. And I was so excited when I reached out to you, and I was like, oh yeah. Yeah,
we clicked immediately.
Wait, and I don't even think Shannon knows this yet. So Shannon, Sacil and I are doing a workshop together on the Let's ReImagine platform. So we are doing a workshop called Calm in the Chaos, and that is from Sacil's work. And it's basically like, how do we take care of ourselves in this? So we'll put a link to that in the show notes if folks want to join us, because
okay, great.
We're going to do an hour and a half, and we're going to combine some interplay and some of Sacil's work, and we're just going to have a good time together, refilling our buckets and having a pause. So
that'll be awesome.
I'll make sure and tag you on it so you can join us if you want to.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Before we started the show, Shannon was talking about, I haven't done interplay yet. This is what she actually said to me. Dance break. She said, is she an interplayer? I said, not yet. Well, she is, but not officially, but that's coming.
Okay.
Because that's what I said when I met Sacil. And I think it's funny that Shannon immediately reading your bio was like, is she an interplayer?
Yeah. The dance, movement, stillness sounds like interplay. Yeah.
It was totally fun.
I'm not there yet. I've been on the site and I definitely want to join.
I am so excited. Yeah, we have an upcoming Secrets of Interplay for helping professionals that I would love to have you come join me at. It's a weekend.
Okay. Where
we do a Thursday night, Friday night, a Saturday, and a Sunday. And it's a little more spaced out because, when we were in person, we would do a whole weekend. And that doesn't, on virtual, we're really conscious of how much our bodies can take online. So we stretch it out a little bit. And we're very intentional facilitators online, that we have big breaks. We get to move. I mean, that's the good thing about teaching something that has movement in it.
Yes.
It's when I go to a traditional Zoom meeting now, I'm like, they're just sitting.
Right. Right.
That's funny.
You were bringing it in at the top of the show, Shannon, about how the pandemic has affected us all on the physicality. I had a client reach out this last week and say, I'm just not doing well. I'm more sedentary because of the pandemic. I'm in front of my computer too much. Overall, I just feel horrible. And, I know that a lot of people have seen this meme that's gone around, but it talks about indigenous wisdom of the healers used to say, when was the last time you danced? When was the last time you sang? When was the last time? And really, like, I ask my clients that, like, when was the last time you danced? When did you move? When did you do something for yourself? So I know all three of us are about self-care in our businesses. So what I would love to ask each of us to speak to the question, like, what is your favorite self-care practice that addresses physical wellness? Maybe one you've already said.
Right. Sacil, I'll let you go first. You're our guest.
Okay. Well, I'll say my favorite one that I have not done well with keeping up with at all is dancing. I used to dance every day. I used to be part of a dance troupe. So I was performing once a week, had practice once a week, and was in class once a week. And then I danced in between because that was just me. And I've gotten away from that. That's my favorite thing. And I really need to get back to it. And then my second favorite, because you can do it anywhere regardless and nobody ever has to know that you're doing anything, is focusing on my breathing. Because I can be anywhere and nobody ever knows that, okay, now I'm breathing from my belly and I'm really focusing on being, embodying my body, and nobody ever has to know. And I don't have to worry about, having equipment or having enough space or anything. It's just being here. So.
Ooh, I love that.
I love that. What was the question again, Christine?
It is, I know each of us, self-care is part of each of our businesses. So what is our favorite personal self-care practice that addresses physical wellness?
Right. And my personal one, it is Shealoglo. That is what I'll say, my shea butter company. And I want to stop using the word crazy, because it's not crazy. It's strategically orchestrated. Or it's definitely on purpose that I have a shea butter company. But it's so interesting to me when I think about how I was as a little girl, not knowing my mom for 12 years, growing up with my dad, not knowing how to take care of myself. Lotion wasn't working. I love that I found shea butter, and now I'm able to use Shealoglo and shea butter to help all these women and all these families take better care of themselves. I love going into people's house and I
Mhm.
see Shealoglo, and people are sending me, there you go, rubbing your Shealoglo on.
I am.
And
Still doesn't know this about me, but every time Shannon says Shealoglo, I have to reach for my Shealoglo and put it on.
it's necessary.
I'm like Skinner's rat. Like, Shealoglo, put it on.
Yes. And I got pictures of people giving their moms foot massages for Mother's Day and all of that. I love that, so that is my favorite part.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Sacil, I would say dancing is one of mine too. Before the pandemic, Joe and I would have a weekly dance date, and we have not had that for a year because everything was shut down.
Oh.
We did a little bit of dancing online, but it's harder in my office than in a big Zumba classroom. Like,
right.
Watch the bowl. Watch the. But I also think, I like to greet the sun from my labyrinth in the morning, and my labyrinth is in the trees, and it's a pretty hefty one. Like when people were over at the house last week, they were like, "How long is that?" It's like, it's about a quarter of a mile. Like by the time you go in and by the time you go out. So it's a gentle physical practice, but it is a physical practice because I'm walking and so I think there's that too, but mine is the stretching in the mornings too, which sometimes I follow that habit with because I convince myself that it's better to sleep an extra 30 minutes. And the reality is, most of the time it's not. Like most of the time, my body is better served getting up and stretching and doing the things that I need to do to give me energy. So, yeah, it is. Woo.
That's a good point.
It's a dance sometimes.
Yeah. And it's a good point what you said. Like sometimes your body is better served spending the time doing that. And that's what I think about with Shealoglo. When I put it on, not only of course do I put it on my whole body, but specifically my joints is what I think about. My ankles, my knees, my hips, my elbows, my shoulders, because it helps with circulation. And I would think that I'm too young to worry about that, but no, you're taking care of your body. So go ahead and again, be preventative. And I love that I can use shea butter to do that too. Yeah.
Well, I love how it intersects. Oh, go ahead, Sacil.
I was going to say the fact that you're actually like spending the time every day to touch yourself and rub that in, that's also, part of the self-care, because people are missing that touch, since we're not as social. But even if you can't touch other people, the fact that you're taking the time to like moisturize your skin and touch your whole body, that's giving you part of that touch that you're missing from other people.
That's such a good point.
I was thinking about how beautiful, like we always talk about this, Sacil, on the show, how physical wellness it really intersects with all the other dimensions of wellness, and that it's crucial to whatever we do, no matter our accessibility, or like to move some piece of ourselves, right? If at all possible. And no matter how slow or gently it needs to happen, because it is so vital to our self-care. And I know in the work that you're doing in the world and the work that I do in the world too, like that physicality of really dancing some of those stories out and getting them out of the body or recognizing them. And
do y'all hear the train going by?
Well, it's actually good timing, my friends, because we are about out of time with you, and we have so loved chatting with you. I looked up and I'm like, whoop, we're almost out of time. So we're going to put how people can find you on Instagram and Facebook. Okay. You're at The Real Sacil, and we will put that in our show notes. And or folks can find you at sacilarmstrong.com. And I will also attach the class that you and I are doing together, and hope people will come and join us for the calm and the chaos.
All right.
I am so looking forward.
I don't have the link up yet for the class where people can get the discount. That's a new class that's coming up next month. So as soon as I have that link, though, I will send it to you, how to talk to your racist friends and family.
Yes. And
Okay.
I hope everybody
All right.
that's listening takes that class. Like, because Sacil is going to give us 10% off her upcoming course, How to Talk to Your Racist Friends and Family. I will, if my schedule allows it at all, I will be there, my friend. So
Okay.
I love my family and my friends, but there are definitely some racist in there. You know, I'm from deep East Texas, and yeah. So I will do my best to be there. But thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Sacil.
Thank you.
Always, it's a joy to talk to you. We look
It's
forward to
always a joy to talk to you.
Bye. Oh my gosh, how fun was that?
It was good. It was good. I feel like I went to the city and got to go hang out with my friend real quick.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? That's how I have felt about Sacil since the minute I met her. I'm like, oh my gosh. And she's in Virginia, so we haven't met personally yet, but that's going to happen this year. We're going to make sure that happens now that things are opening back up. Yeah. So when you think about that conversation, what bubbled up for you, my friend?
I mean, I would say my wisdom in action is to put my feet on the grass. Like, I love walking outside barefoot. And, you know, I was just on the beach last week, but I have not been barefoot out here recently. So I'm probably going to change that.
I like that. I think I may do it right after the show, like to go ground myself and put my feet on the earth. I'm going to be traveling to see family next week. And, you know, that being intentional about place, right?
What do you mean?
We were talking about this at the Alternate Roots weekend about where we come from and our place and environmental wellness. You know, how we talk about at environmental wellness, but there's the physicality of it. I guess what's bubbling up for me is when I think about, I'm not going to be in my place that I've been in for a year and a half. I'm going home to the place that I come from. So there's going to be a totally different energy when I land there and get to put my feet on that ground. But even you saying that, I want to go outside and put my feet in my yard, like my grass right now, and kind of be intentional and soak it up and give gratitude for it. Because it makes me teary even to think about it. Because, you know, in some ways for 18 months, it's been like, oh, like we have to be home, you know, but such gratitude for having a place to be. Yeah. And having a beautiful grass that I can put my feet in, and gratitude for that. And my little fancy feet getting excited about things are opening back up, and I get to travel for the first time in a year and a half, and being intentional about where I'm putting my feet. I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah. I like that. So yeah, I'll be tuning in from another place next week.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Hopefully all the tech will work, because I look forward to being with y'all. And all right, you talked a little bit about Shealoglo, but do you want to give a shout out for and tell people about Shearos?
Yes. So, ladies, Shearos are women in your life and in your community who are making a difference, right? Who is that one person you think about that your life will be completely different? That is a Shearo, and we want to honor her. And what that looks like with Shealoglo, I actually am going to change it. So now I think I want the ladies to have their option. Instead of me saying, here, this is what I'm giving you, they're going to be able to pick. So send your Shearo nomination to shealoglo@gmail.com. I need the subject title to be My Shearo so that they'll all go together, and I'll be picking a nomination at the end of this month. So it is May 19th. The nominations close at the last day of the month, and the next one will be announced. So she will get that in the mail. She will get to pick it out and just, you know, be honored for all the work that she does, and give her more time to touch on herself and give her the love that she needs, like Sacil was talking about. And of course, everybody loves a thank you for the work that they do.
Oh, I love that so much. Thank you for being a sponsor of this show. And thank you for honoring. I know we can't honor all the amazing women, because then you would not have a business.
Many.
But, I love that you are intentional about that and giving shout outs. So thank you so much.
Of course. Of course. And we'll be back next week, ladies, live at 5. Christine from another state, right? But in the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole, and we'll see you soon.
Look forward to it, my friend.
Yes, me too.